All right, yo. We got some good warrior news, man. We got some good warrior news on the PTR. I told you to stop dooming. No dooming. Dooming bad for you. So here's basically the changes they made. Arms Tierset has been reworked, essentially. Overpower now gives you your abilities give you a stacking damage buff to Overpower by 5% every stack. Overpower then has a chance to end your winning streak, which is the damage you're getting is also the damage you're losing, and it's using in the proc, and that's good, whatever. But this 4-set, dude, this 4-set is crazy. When your winning streak ends, you gain 2% haste, and your Mortal Strike and Cleave damage is increased by 2% per stack of winning streak. So 10% or 10 stacks of winning streak is 20% haste, which is crazy for Arms by itself, and 20% Mortal Strike damage. This thing is nuts. Also, how it works is so much better than the previous set. The previous set, how it actually worked, is when you reprocced your ending your winning streak and re-got the buff, it would actually overwrite the previous buff you got. So let's say you had 3 stacks of winning streak and you procced it off of using an overpower. So you had 3 stacks of this overpower of this Mortal Strike and haste buff, and then you had 1 stack of winning streak and then ended it previously. You would then have 1 stack of this haste and Mortal Strike buff, but now it adds to the fucking tier set bonus and stacks on top of it and refreshes the duration. So now you can go from 3 stacks to 4 stacks of haste and Mortal Strike if you proc at 1 stack of winning streak, and you can just keep that buff, and it's so good. That means if we get to 10 stacks and we reset it, it's just gonna stay. It's gonna be so good, bro. We are going to be like, right now we're running something kind of like this, but we've got to rethink this talent tree a little bit at this point, because Deft Experience giving us more overpowers while we're spending Rage to give us more haste. Like, even if this is 1 point, we're probably going to try and look around and find another point, potentially, to put in Deft Experience. Maybe we're just going to run with this. I don't know. But we are going to want to spam the shit out of overpowers and Mortal Strikes. We're probably even, I don't know how much we're going to be caring as much about executes. I mean, we might drop some of these execute talents. Maybe we would drop Juggernaut and Critical Thinking. I'm not sure. But maybe we would drop like these 2 and then go right over into Battle Lord. And maybe even Exhilarating Blows. I don't know. I'm not really sure right now. But the new Arms tier set is so good. I'm not sure exactly how we're going to run this, but you're just going to want to spam Overpowers and Mortal Strikes with how they've built this thing. That's how they want you to play it. And that is such a great change. And it feels good to play, and that it stacks on itself, and the haste feels good. I've been telling you guys that this might be an Arms tier, because last tier was a Fury tier. In this tier, they're like, hey, baby, you want some Arms tier? Look at this tier set bonus. I mean, they might update Fury's tier, and it might be cooler. Fury's is also very weird, where once you lose your winning streak bonus, you actually don't gain anything off your 4 set. So if they add something like that, Fury tier might be a bit more desirable. But I guess they also took my Trinket feedback to heart, because we have another little note right down here, which is raid rewards. House of Cards cooldown reduced to 1.5 minutes was 2 minutes. Duration reduced, and reduced the variance of mastery potency here. But this is so good. Now Arms has a trinket, right? This is so good, because now Arms has a trinket that is good for them, which is this Funhouse Lens, which is haste mastery, or haste or crit. You might even use this House of Cards trinket on Arms, because mastery is still good for us. It is myth track. I don't remember where the... See if I can look it up. Funhouse Lens. Wow. Where does this come from? Funhouse lens. Where do we get this trinket? I don't know how. I don't know where this trinket comes from. House lens. Funhouse lens. Item. Spell. Yeah, I have no idea where the source of this trinket is. The icon name is Inv Jewel Crafting Ice Diamond. Like, is it? I don't know if it's in. And if it's okay, so here's the actual problem. So this trinket's decent right now, this Funhouse lens, but this thing might be like a delve trinket, which is why it's capped at 665 instead of myth track. Yeah, so this thing actually... This thing might not go to myth track. This thing might be a delve-specific hero track item. Yeah, so we as Arms might be using... We'll probably be using this House of Cards anyway, since we don't have a myth track variation of this. We might use this early on. But it looks like as Arms we might be using this House of Cards trinket. But the fact that they changed this to a minute 30... Mastery is still not that bad for us. It is still flat damage. We're going to get a ton of haste from our tier set. We actually have a ton of mastery on a lot of our pieces, but like look at the Arms tier set. Haste crit, crit haste. This one's pretty mastery heavy. Haste crit. This one's mastery heavy, and this is mastery crit, so we might run this and then have our helmet as like our off slot, maybe? I'm not sure. But then we can find, but there's a lot of our off pieces, like even this off piece here. This could be catalyzed. This might mean we're not really going to be looking at the ring as early on, or the cloak, just because they're so mastery heavy. And we might be using other pieces potentially. But I mean, this is a great change for us. This is a fantastic change for us, and not only is it good for us, it's good for Death Knight. Us and Death Knight did not have basically a good minute-and-a-half trinket in the game, and they needed to do this to give us a good minute-and-a-half trinket, and I'm very, very glad they did, because there was speculation that DKs might be using Treacherous Transmitter from the previous raid tier, just because of how good it was. But with this trinket and being a minute-and-a-half, you can actually use it with your cooldowns, and it's good. It's good. So I'm very happy with this change. It's going to be very good. I didn't realize that this thing was going to be maybe a delve trinket, so we didn't even have like a delve or some kind of trinket that we wouldn't be able to get to myth track. So it's this trinket and Eye of Kazan are probably just going to be our best in slot for everything. But no, I am super happy about this. This change is great. They also made the Eye of Kazan and other proc trinkets more consistent. And with the Arms tier buff and the fact that it can stack on itself and it doesn't rewrite itself. Ooh. Imagine being able to sustain 20% haste and 20% mortal strike damage for like a minute straight inside of a like an execute window. Oh my god, dude, it might just be so good. We're going to be using overpower so much just to keep this buff, just to keep the haste. The tier set really works within itself. I am very excited. The only actual problem, though, the actual potential problem, is with the amount of haste we're getting and the amount of haste we might have from like actual crafted stuff and like because a lot of these slots are obviously not like tuned specifically towards Arms stats, so I have a lot more mastery and a lot less haste and crit. But with this, there is a question on potentially returning back to Test of Might. Some people aren't happy about that. I mean, to me, realistically, it's going to be... It plays the same way, you just have a bit less haste, but because we're getting essentially 20% haste, which is the execute level of haste for In for the Kill, we might not be running In for the Kill, we might be running Test of Might because of how much extra damage it's doing. But this definitely throws a wrench in the works of what we were considering of really playing. Like, because if we take a point out of Skull Splitter, basically we can't get this extra point in deft experience with any of these talents up here. It has to come from down here, and that's where we're like, I'm not sure. But with the change to Mortal Strike, with this change to how important Overpower is to potentially keep this Mortal Strike buff, I am wondering how possible it might be, or how good it might be that we're going to be potentially taking away like these points here for Juggernaut and Critical Thinking, and then running them over here. Fatality did get a buff, actually. Interestingly enough, Fatality now works with our cooldowns. It used to not, but now Fatality does, so it's actually pretty good. It's actually pretty decent in single target, so I do wonder is if we do something like this, it might be running something like this in single target, but depending on how much extra Mortal Strike damage we're doing, I do wonder as well, with the Mortal Strike buff in Colossus, with the less incentivization to run, with the less incentivization to potentially run Juggernaut, if depending on how much we're really trying to focus on keeping this tier set up through Tactician procs and all that kind of shit, I do wonder if this could also push the envelope towards Colossus more, because even in single target, even in AoE, Colossus has a lot more things that are far more interactive with Mortal Strike. It's also far more tanky compared to Slayer. They did recently make the change where it's only Mortal Strike that gives Colossal Might instead of Execute, so we're even more incentivized to be just spamming Overpower and Mortal Strike. But even then, running Colossus with Executioner's Precision, you have roughly, unless you get a Battle Lord reset, you have roughly 4 globals between Mortal Strikes, and that could be Overpower to see if you get a Battle Lord proc. If you don't, execute to not only get a Deft Experience to not only get a Overpower proc back, or maybe 2 Overpower procs back, and then you're hitting Mortal Strike, and then you're going back into your Overpowers with Colossus to continually try and not only use this damage buff here for the cleave damage, you're getting more Mortal Strike damage through Execute. So it's going to be far more. So with these changes and how important this tier set might be, it might really shift our focus towards Mortal Strike over Execute spamming as Slayer. Slayer still might be better numbers-wise, I don't know. But this actually has some like, hey, maybe, maybe not, maybe. Some questions up in the air on how this is going to work, what's going to be best for us. And it's very exciting. It's exciting to see tier set changes this quickly. It's exciting to see that the Trinket changes to make us have a more viable and better Trinket this quickly. I'm very, very happy with these things. I really do hope that Fury's tier set gets looked at. I mean, it's okay, but the way Arms tier set works and how it actually interacts makes you think about it, makes you want to use it, makes you want to interact with it because it's so good. And Fury's is just there. It is purely passive. You don't think about it. It just happens. You're going to hit it because of how Blood Craze and how you're going to get these bonuses. You're going to be wanting to hit your Crushing Blow, or you're going to be wanting to hit your Raging Blow and your Bloodthirst before you rampage anyway. Make sure you're using these bonuses and building enough rage and spending these things. And Fury tier doesn't seem very interactive or interesting, which is why I really hope they do change it. But this Arms change is super, super cool and super, super great. And on top of it, the Trinket change of House of Cards is very, very welcome, not only for us, but for DKs as well. So this is some very, very exciting news. Also, just as a little side note, I'm also going to be playing Rogue in this upcoming. I'll be playing Outlaw, and they told us how the set bonus is going to work. So now, each bonus increases the chance to roll a 2 buff by 12% and a chance to roll a 5 buff by 4%, which is super good. So I think this changes the 5 buff to like a 5%, but also increases the chance of having more buffs significantly with this tier set because of this sleight of hand change. which I like. I like this. This is good. It adds more consistency. We're probably still going to be running Keep It Rolling and Supercharger with this, but no, I'm very happy for this. I'm looking forward to it, and we should be good, man. We should be good. I just wanted to pump this out. I'm also going to be doing raid testing today. I'm going to be doing all the mythic testing today and tomorrow. And then what I'll probably do is release individual boss videos talking about them because I like to yap about raid stuff. So, yeah, that's what we'll do. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm very excited. It's very, very cool. Very, very good. And I'll see you when I see it. Bye-bye.